Well, Frank thought it would be a good idea if I talked to you about the Castle report and how you could use it. So I want to tell you a little bit about it. I started doing it in 2010. We had a national committee meeting like this at a hotel in Idaho, somewhere in Idaho. I talked to a group of people, and I noticed that having been a candidate for vice president in 2008, no one was talking about the issues or doing anything concerning current events or the issues that the party faced, that the country faced. So I decided I would do that. And someone said to me, in fact that was Gary Odom, he said, you know, everybody talks about it, but nobody does anything about it. So I said, well, I'm actually going to do it. So I started looking at how to do it, and I got some help from Bob Peck in Washington, Karen Mary. Without those two people, it wouldn't have been possible. But for several years, I did 3 podcasts a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And frankly, that was pretty burdensome. But back then, for those years, I just would sit down in front of the microphone and start talking. And in fact, I told John we should call it Darrell Castle Talking instead of the Castle Report. But so I did that for a long time, and then people started complaining, people not affiliated with the Constitution Party, that there was no transcript. They wanted a transcript because they didn't actually want to listen to me. They just wanted to scan through the words. So I started doing a transcript of each podcast. After I would record, I would have my secretary transcribe it, and then that got to be aggravating. And so I switched to one a week, which I could give a lot more time to, make it longer. I did the transcript myself, so it's not an exact transcript. It's kind of it's an article really, but it's not my words exactly, because I ad lib when I'm trying to read it. But basically, the Castle Report is I've done about 800 of them now. Yeah, that's right. It's a lot. 800 of them, and last report I got from Bob was that several 100,000 people have heard them in 88 different countries. Yeah, 88 countries. I got a lot of listeners in Russia, been interviewed on Russian TV, and they like me in Russia more than they do here, actually. Yeah, I got interested in Russia when I was in college. I had a minor in Russian history, French history, really, because the French professor was really hot, and I liked her, and so I studied French. But anyway, India, all across the Middle East, Afghanistan. I assume that's service people that listen in Afghanistan, but I don't know that for sure. But yeah, we get Joe and I get letters from the Middle East from time to time. You know, I know where you live, that kind of thing, but nothing's ever come of any of it. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a labor of love. And some people use it. The podcast, my philosophy, is based on a defense of Western civilization and the rule of law in general. Western civilization is very important. It's the greatest civilization in the history of the world, and it's too bad that we decided to destroy it, that the country decided to destroy it. 1,000 years to build it. In 100 years, it's been completely dismantled. So, but anyway, that's what I try to do. And you could put these podcasts out there any way that you want to. Let me give you a couple of examples, if I can put my finger on. My friends up in Michigan did this to send it out to their people. They just send it out to their state group, I assume. But this says, We encourage everyone to listen in to Darrell Castle as he presents brilliant commentary on national and world events as only he can. Darrell Castle is one of the most knowledgeable men on current events found today and offers practical and constitutional solutions to the current troubles we are facing. So thanks to my friends in Michigan for sending that out. Some people use it. I look from time to time to try to find it, and I uncover different ways that people have passed it around. Occasionally other websites pick it up and send it around. A lot more did that when I was a candidate than they do now, but people comment on the podcast all the time, and I look with great interest at the comments, read every one of them. A lot of people comment by just sending me personal emails, but a lot of people post it on the website, and most of the comments are really quite complimentary. They like it. Some people, there's one gentleman who essentially puts a sermon on every podcast, and people will comment, oh, thanks for the devotion, so several people will comment on his sermon, but I enjoy all of them. I enjoy reading it, even ones like this. Here's a gentleman who listened to my podcast on Amazon called Tech Tyrants, where I made the argument that Amazon is now controlling the entire market from beginning to end. They're in the food business. They're everything. And so I made the argument that Amazon is in violation of antitrust rules and should be looked at by the antitrust division. And he wrote me and said, "What a crock of," I won't say the word he uses, but he goes on to argue that Amazon is great, and if you want to think they're great, that's fine. I mean, I don't care. People would write me about that and say, "Oh, I'm so old and tired, and I have to use Amazon because I can't get out to shop anymore." And I said, "Well, by all means, use them. I use them. I mean, you can't buy a book without using them." So it's just different things, different people. So use the podcast any way you can. I hope you enjoy them. Dr. Kane kept me alive for many years podcast-wise, because he told me that last few years of his life, when he couldn't get out really, that was his only source of news, because he didn't listen to any of the mainstream news, which I don't either, because I don't want to pollute my mind. I'm actually, right now, as of May, I'm 17 months post television. I haven't watched television in 17 months, except what I see accidentally walking through airports or something like that. But my wife doesn't share my aversion to it. She occasionally watches it. She watches her Hallmark stuff and other things. But I've managed to, and that was really difficult for me. I have to tell you, when it started, it all started with when the NFL players decided they wouldn't stand for the national anthem anymore. And so I said, well, I'm not, this is a free country. You can do what you want to do, but I don't have to pay for it. So I stopped watching. And I said, you see that empty couch right there? That's mine. That's where I used to sit and watch you. And all those tickets we used to buy, you can just live without that my ticket price. But anyway, it carried over from one thing to another, and unfortunately, so many things offend me that I just stopped watching all of it, because there's more of it that offended me than not. But anyway, I endeavor every week to talk about whatever is on my mind at that time, whatever I think the lead issue is. There are certain things that you can't talk about, because you can't talk about everything, but I'll find something that has something to do with the the destruction of our civilization and our society and that sort of thing, and I'll talk about it. And you can do what you want with it. As I said, not everyone agrees with me. This is America. You got a right to be wrong if you want. But let me just say one other thing in passing, in case I don't get the opportunity. This afternoon we're going over the resolutions. But that resolution will be my last appearance up here for this meeting. And so if you want to join me and the national chairman here, we're going to be outside at the fire pit smoking cigars and drinking beer this afternoon. Frank and I go way back. We've drunk a lot of beer together over the years. So come join us. You'll enjoy it.